What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Joey Chou with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. On Sunday, Taiwan reported 39 Chinese planes entering its Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, making it the largest number so far this year. This comes after U.S. and Japanese naval forces have been carrying out exercises in the South China Sea and as tensions in the Taiwan Strait continue to soar. Jaime Ocon reports.
Barely 3 weeks into the new year, and over 100 Chinese planes have reportedly crossed into Taiwan's Air Defense Zone, or ADIZ, thus far. The latest group included over 24 fighter jets, which entered the southwestern corner of Taiwan's ADIZ, and several electronic warfare planes that flew further south near Taiwan's Dongsa Islands, totaling 39 planes in a single day, the most this year. In response, Taiwan scrambled its own fighters and deployed missile defense systems. Experts believe that China's latest incursion is meant to send a strong message across the region.
So there's definitely this political purpose, and we can see that a lot with many of the large sorties. So I would say I typically classify 10 or more as a exceptionally large day of sorties. I think that there is that gray zone military pressure and political purpose for the large ones, and the smaller flights are likely more operational in nature.
As Taiwan and its neighbors seek to manage a more assertive China, it hopes that it can do so without triggering a potential conflict. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
To discuss the significance of Sunday's incursions, TaiwanPlus reporter Ying Cavett spoke to Sean King, who is Senior Vice President at Park Strategies and a scholar at the University of Notre Dame Liu Institute for Asia.
Japanese Prime Minister Kishida and U.S. President Biden had a virtual summit last week, and Taiwan did appear in the joint statement afterwards. Also, there's an unusually large U.S. naval presence in the region right now. And then lastly, Taiwan Vice President William Lai will visit Honduras this week, and where he may just accidentally, on purpose, meet U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, just like in 2009, at an El Salvadorian inaugural banquet, then Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou just happened to bump into then U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. So Beijing may be trying to get ahead of that bad news by showing its strength now.
You mentioned there was unusually large U.S. presence in the region. Why is that?
Asia is a very strong focus of the Biden administration, and with Beijing flexing its muscles, it's only natural that we would stand by our friends and allies and partners in the region. Perhaps with the troubles in Ukraine right now, we just may want to reassure our friends and allies in the region that just because we're focused on what's happening in Ukraine, we haven't forgotten about Asia. And this extra show of force is just to remind people that we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
And one final question, Sean. So how do you think the U.S. would take this, the 39 incursions yesterday?
I don't think we're going to overreact, but we're certainly going to keep an eye on it, and our strong presence in the region speaks to that.
On Monday, Taiwan's Central Epidemic Command Center reported 15 new domestic cases of COVID-19 and 36 new imported ones. After months of no or few community infections in Taiwan, a spate of clusters is raising fears ahead of the week-long Lunar New Year holiday. Louise Watt reports.
This free trade zone and its dormitories near Taiwan's Taoyuan International Airport have become COVID-19 hotspots. Air cargo passes through this zone, and now so too the virus. The surge stems from an airport cluster that spilled over to a restaurant, a bank, and several schools in Taoyuan City. Now 4,500 workers in the free trade zone are being tested, along with their contacts. In 48 hours, more than 100 cases have been confirmed. This includes more than 30 on Sunday from 9 companies. The outbreak is also spreading to factories in neighboring Hsinchu County. On Sunday evening, local authorities added 5 new community testing stations after 5 new cases were reported. In the capital, Taipei, 4 new cases at the weekend included a chef at the city's Grand Hotel and 2 of her family members. The hotel was disinfected. Authorities are investigating how they got the virus. With growing numbers of people entering Taiwan and testing positive, and the number of domestic cases also rising, Patients with mild symptoms are being sent to an intensive quarantine hotel rather than hospital. But this quarantine hotel for positive cases is expected to be full before the Lunar New Year holiday starts this weekend.
大概昨天还剩下40床了，所以大概我们要在最短的时间内再开第二家的加强版防疫专责旅馆。
As Taiwan's COVID situation heats up, the country on Monday received the first batch of 10,000 courses of Merck's oral antiviral drug, Molnupiravir. The pills will be distributed to medical institutions as soon as possible and used to treat people who are sick with mild COVID symptoms, hoping to stop them getting more serious. Alex Chen and Louise Watt for Taiwan Plus.
President Tsai Ing-wen is facing a political backlash within her own party for opening a cultural park and a library dedicated to Taiwan's former president, Jiang Jingguo. Lawmakers from Tsai's Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, criticized the building as paying homage to a man implicated in the arrest, detention, and killings of people critical of the government. Jiang ruled Taiwan from 1978 to 1988, following in the footsteps of his father, Chiang Kai-shek. Before that, he oversaw the country's secret police, helping to implement a campaign of political suppression known as the White Terror. But Tsai on Saturday called for unity amongst Taiwanese people and praised Jiang Jingguo for his defiance against aggression from Beijing.
每一位总统的历史定位都应该由人民来决定。面对当前北京对台湾一波又一波的军事及政治施压，蒋经国前总统坚定保台的立场，毫无疑问也是当前台湾人民最大的共识。但面对未来的挑战，我们必须共同合作，团结保卫台湾。
To find out more about Jiang Jingguo's legacy and Taiwan's efforts to confront the injustices of the past, our reporter Rick Glauert spoke to historian James Lin in Seattle. He began by asking who Jiang Jingguo was.
He's a bit of a slightly kind of mixed legacy figure in Taiwanese history because there is a narrative that Jiang Jingguo was instrumental for Taiwan's democratization because he was essentially in charge during the democratization process. But at the same time, he also was a major political figure within the Kuomintang and within the Republic of China government during the darkest days of the White Terror and of martial law. And he was personally in charge of many of the institutions that were responsible for the repressive period under martial law. So both of these together means that for some people, he's seen as someone who was important for Taiwan's democratization, but for other people, he's seen as kind of a symbol of Taiwan's authoritarian period and its deep political repression.
And so what is Taiwan doing for transitional justice, and how would this week's debate about the cultural park fit into that?
I think it's important for the current government, for the DPP, to make sure that the history that's represented within this cultural park, and especially within this presidential library, is one that takes into account the problems of the Kuomintang period, of this martial law period. So they want to make sure that transitional justice also includes an accurate historical narrative that includes the past wrongdoings so that future generations can make sure to learn about this.
And what do you think the cultural park and the conversations around it say about Taiwanese identity in 2022?
So I would say that Taiwanese identity today is one that is meant to be, I like to call it kind of like a big umbrella identity. It's one that's meant to encompass all different sorts of experiences, lived experiences and memories and identifications of people who reside on Taiwan today. It's more of a civic nationalism than it is of one based on maybe 40 years ago would have been based more centrally on a Republic of China or Chinese-centric identity.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the Taiwan Plus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. We leave you with pictures of 2 Da Vinci masterpieces brought to life at Berlin's Light Show. I've been Joey Chou. Have a great night, and I'll catch you on the flip side.